in a world where the number of movies available is great, but many are so bad, you'll learn a new definition of hate. One man sifts and reviews through the movie sludge. One man will be the movie cop, jury, and judge. He goes by many names, but you know him by Movies Merica.
Hey, all you beautiful movie-loving people out there, live from a red carpet somewhere, surrounded by celebrities. This is the Movies Merica podcast with Van Ebert, where movie reviews meet cold brews. Van will review your favorite and maybe not so favorite movies while enjoying some ice-cold beers and saying cheers. Now let's head into the theater and join our illustrious movie reviewer du jour, who's no doubt got the beer ready to pour, Van Ebert. Howdy, cowpokes. Hey, this is your cowboy, Van Ebert, here on the Movies Merica podcast. Thank you very much for joining me here. Much appreciated. Lovely to have you here. And you have come to the source of your movie review and beer drinking podcast location here. So if that's what you came down to do, well, we got it in spades. Today, tonight, this morning, wherever you're at, whatever time it is you're listening to this here podcast. And the reason I keep bringing up the twang over here is because the movie I'll be reviewing is American Sniper, of course. And as you know, it is all about Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, who is from Texas. And so we will be, honoring his memory and going over the fantastic movie directed by Clint Eastwood today called, again, American Sniper. So that's right, American Sniper.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. Would you be surprised if I told you that the Navy has credited you with over 160 kills? Do you ever think that you might have seen things or done some things over there that you wish you hadn't?
Oh, that's not me, no.
What's not you?
I don't tell you enough. I'm so proud of you. You're such a great father.
So you're not worried about what might happen?
I'm willing to meet my creator and answer for every shot that I took.
Don't pick it up. Drop it.
But I would be remiss if I didn't let you guys know that you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and I am also on social media outlets like Twitter, Instagram. Check me out there. Check out my post or post on me or DM me there on Instagram or Twitter if you like. And also you can listen to the podcast on moviesmerica.com. And as you heard, I said that I was going to be reviewing American Sniper, and that just goes along with what I said before, where I'm not just gonna review new movies. I'm gonna review old movies as well. So, and I just love doing that. There's just sometimes there's an older movie that has just got to be reviewed. I gotta get my thoughts and my feelings out there about an older movie that I just love, like when you're just sitting around and you get these thoughts in your head, and you're like, God, I got to get these thoughts out into the world. The world's begging to hear what I think about said subject, and I was thinking that there, rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly, But I was like, you know what? The world's begging to hear what me, Van Ebert, has to say about American Sniper there. Anyway. Okay. And as I've done in other episodes, of course, I will be wetting my whistle. I will be downing some beer. And so, since we are talking about a Texan, a true Texan, and Chris Kyle in American Sniper, I will be downing some Texas brew, okay? And this beer is Rahr and Sons. It's a Fort Worth, Texas brewery, as opposed to Fort Worth, Wyoming or something. And Rahr and Sons makes this brew called Texas Red. Yeah, Texas Red. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. We're down in Texas Red here today, tonight, this morning, again, wherever you're at, whatever time you're listening to this. So I'm going to take a little sippy of this. All right. And let's mosey on down this trail, okay? All right. So, American Sniper. I'm sure most of you have seen it. Maybe a few of you haven't seen it. This is going to be a spoilers-free review. I know the movie came out 7 years ago or whenever it came out. But, just in case someone hasn't seen it. And, I don't want to be that guy. I do not want to be that guy running it for somebody. So, in the off chance, there might be that one guy, there might be that one gal that, hasn't seen it, and I don't want to ruin it for them. So, but it is about, a Navy SEAL named Chris Kyle, and he starts out, he's just like, this good old boy Texan who just wants to be a cowboy. He's a rodeo. He rides horses in the rodeo, and it's established that he's a guy that likes to stand up for people. And in an early scene in the movie, his little brother is getting picked on by a bully, and Chris comes in there and defends his little brother. It's established that he's what's called what his dad terms a sheepdog. And he says that there's three types of people in the world. Okay, there are sheep. These are the people that just they just can't fathom that there's evil in the world, and they're the weaker ones. Then there is the wolf. They're the wolves, and they like to victimize the sheep. They like to pick on the sheep. And then another breed, the best breed, the third breed, is the sheepdog. And they are there to protect the sheep from the wolves. And it's established that Chris Kyle is definitely a sheepdog. He's all about standing up for the little guy, standing up for the sheep. And that's just a natural trait for him to join the military. And so he sees the broadcast back in the late 90s of the U.S. embassies over in, I think it was Tanzania and Kenya, got bombed by Al-Qaeda, and a not so famous as of yet guy named Osama bin Laden, who was he was behind those two bombings there. So this is back when Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, they would go bomb something, and the United States was like, well, yeah, they blew up a lot of people, but we're not going to take this guy out quite yet, just maybe a few more bodies before we got to, take this guy out. And then all of a sudden September 11th happened. Okay, and they're like, okay, yeah, maybe we should do something about this guy. Okay, maybe we should. But so he sees the bombings there in Tanzania and Kenya, and he feels that calling, like a lot of people that go into the military feel that calling, like, I got to serve. Some people go in the military, as I found out when I was in the military, like just go in there just for, for the GI Bill, and, get the perks, and, hope to God there isn't any war and anything like that, they get to work in the mailroom or something like that. But, most of the people that went in the military that I served with, they went in out of a sense of service. And Chris Kyle is no different. And he wants to fight. He's not getting in the military to, work in logistics or the post office. He's in there. He wants to fight. He wants to fight for his fellow Americans. And so he joins the Navy SEALs. And so they show him he's going to BUDS, That's a Navy SEAL training. So when you go to Navy SEALs, you go to Navy basic training, then you go to A school, and then you go to BUDS training there to be a SEAL, and that's in Coronado, California. And so he goes through there, and he goes through the rigors of BUDS, and then he meets a special woman in his life, and that is her name is Taya.
It's nice to meet you.
Where are you going?
Well, I was just gonna go home because you said you want to date a SEAL, so.
Said I'd never marry one.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe hello. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
Taya?
Taya. Chris. I'm Chris Kyle. Nice to meet you. Pleasure.
I mean, it's pretty egotistical of you to think you can protect us all, isn't it, Chris?
Well, our BUDS office commander says that it's three. Okay. He said there's three things we got to worry about: ego, booze, and women.
Well, sounds like you're under attack.
You're pretty. So beautiful.
And she, him and her just develop a chemistry, develop a connection, and they end up getting married. And I'm just kind of going through the whole plot here. I'm not gonna go through the whole plot right there, but that's kind of like just the beginnings. That's the foundation. And he turns out like he just goes into so 9/11. Let me back up a little bit. So 9/11 happens. So they are married, or they're about to get married, and all of a sudden they see the planes crash into the world, into the Twin Towers on TV, and so they that just sets the events in motion there for the rest of the movie, and they get married, and eventually they get stationed. They get called out there, so they're right in the middle of the reception for their wedding, and they get called up to go to Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever they get deployed to. And yeah, so then Chris Kyle, he ends up he's good with a rifle. He gets recruited to be a Navy SEAL sniper, and they they put him on what they call Overwatch, which is basically you get Marines and maybe some some army guys and gals like just busting down doors in Iraqi cities and Afghan cities, looking for Al Qaeda, insurgents of any kind, just trying to get the big bad guys. Like al-Zarqawi is one of the guys that they're going for, one of the big targets they're going for. And so as soldiers are, going and busting down doors and looking for guys like al-Zarqawi and other insurgents, he, Chris Kyle just, sits on roofs and he protects the troops. He's their Overwatch. People are, looking to do harm to Marines. They're out there planting IEDs, or they're, coming around a corner with an AK or something like that, and if Chris Kyle would see him, he takes him out. He's their Overwatch. And to that effect here, I'm going to take a little drink of the Texas Red as a tribute to Texan Chris Kyle. Wow, that's pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. So I'm sure that would be Navy SEAL approved there, or at least Texan approved. Texas Red, Raw and Sons. Good beer. But so yeah, so he does it. I mean, he does a sniping thing. So he ends up, he did 4 tours over in Iraq as a Navy SEAL, and the movie they cut to he'll go on a tour, he'll come back off a tour and come back stateside and see Taya's wife, and I think the first time he came back from his after his first tour there, she gave birth to their first child, a son. And then he goes back on his second tour, and the second tour is the stories of the tours that he goes over there are pretty captivating, because there's definite big opponents or bad guys, the insurgents, the Al Qaeda leaders and enforcers. those are, some guys that Chris Kyle and his team, his fellow Navy SEALs and Marines are going after. And so those subplots as he's over there are pretty interesting here. But what really adds the meat, to the movie here and gives it its emotional center is his trips home between tours where he sees his wife, sees his kids. And as you would imagine, I mean, unless you're just some cold-hearted, robot, when you're taking out other people, as a sniper there, these are terrorists, right? These are terrorists. These are, what I have no problem calling scumbags. These are people that think that, with their Muslim religion, and I'm not saying all Muslims are this way, but these extremists, terrorist Muslims are have this mindset where they think their religion is the end all be all of all religions, and you need to assimilate into their religion or die, right? And if you don't, you're the infidel, and there's a jihad against infidels, and they're going to take you out if you don't convert to Islam. And so he's tasked with along with the rest of the military there to take these guys out before they take the good guys out. So that's their MO there.
We found a tunnel. Watch your back. Keep your eyes open. Contact front! Contact front back! White side. Hold security. White side. Butcher's on the move. Repeat, Butcher's on the move. I'm in pursuit. Butcher's down.
And so there's those stories there, but even with taking out those guys, behind a sniper rifle, that has to affect your heart, right? Affect your soul. You start feeling guilty, and they establish, in this movie, Chris Kyle, he's brought up as a man of God. His parents go to church. He's brought up. He's given a spiritual upbringing, going to church, and he's a guy that that really believes in the Judeo-Christian principles, and he's got a code of honor, code of ethics, and so it bothers him. It bothers him, but not just that, but he feels guilty when he comes home to his wife. Of course, he loves his wife, he loves his kids, he wants to come home, but he's so dedicated to, his teammates over there, and he's so dedicated to the mission to take out the bad guys so they don't take out his friends, and he just feels, like he's derelict in being back home and being with his wife. He feels guilty about it, I'm sure, and he wants to be over there and doing his part. And that takes an effect on their marriage because, he I'm sure he doesn't do it voluntarily, but, he shuts out his wife emotionally to an extent. He's trying to be there for her, but, she's living the life of the wife of a special forces operator. I mean, Navy SEALs. I mean, he's not, in the Air Force, working at the post office, Not that all people in the Air Force work at the post office. I was in the Air Force. I definitely didn't work at the post office. But, he's on the front lines. He's in it. He's got his M4, he's got his sniper rifle. He's up there on Overwatch. He's in it, And so she's, worried about him, worried about, her loved one, the love of her life, the father of her children, making the ultimate sacrifice. And so that stress, weighs on her, and him being closed off, most likely involuntarily to her, because he's just, he's got tunnel vision. He's just laser focused on the mission. That takes the toll on their marriage. And so, Bradley Cooper, before I get, before this is all over with, I just have to say Bradley Cooper does a really good job as Chris Kyle, and Sienna Miller does a great job as Taya. And so in these emotional scenes, when, they're really pouring their hearts out to each other, or at least she is to him, and he's kind of closed off, there's a good chemistry between these actors. And apparently the chemistry was so good, they did a movie like right after this that didn't do so well at the box office here, but it was called Burnt, where Bradley Cooper plays like a famous chef, and I think she works in the kitchen there. So Sienna Miller and Bradley Cooper, they apparently had such a good time working with each other on this American Sniper movie. They wanted to do the movie Burnt after this, and so yeah, the movie just progresses from there. And I'm not going to go any further into the plot there. I mean, I don't I don't want to give away the the whole secret of the plot, right? I mean, you gotta discover. You gotta have some parts of the movie to discover, and there's a lot of minutia in the movie that I didn't go over in all the scenes. I didn't go over the scenes, like with a scalpel for you. I mean, it's going to be entertaining. You're really going to like this movie. It's very, very interesting. It's very emotional. It really gives the relationship oriented look at military life. This is not Rambo. This is not that Lone Survivor movie with Mark Wahlberg, and Taylor Kitsch there. I mean, this is about relationships, about the toll it takes on families. And now that's just one of the side effects of war. I mean, war is hell. It's war, when you're, downrange in the field, and it's also war back home. Because, not only are you serving, your spouse is serving too. I mean, for all intents and purposes, your husband, your wife, whoever your dependent is, they're serving too. They got to worry about their loved ones, so they're serving too. And so this movie touches on that. So, like I said, Bradley Cooper does a great job in this movie. I always saw interviews with Chris Kyle before this movie ever came out. I mean, he was like on a lot of the late night talk shows, like Jimmy Kimmel and The Tonight Show, and he was on Discovery Channel shows. And so you saw Chris Kyle on TV shows. He came out with this book. He wrote this movie is based on his book American Sniper. And so he was, doing the talk show circuit, and so Bradley Cooper in the movie, you listen to his dialect, his accent in this movie, and he nails it as far as like how Chris Kyle sounds there, because I mean he worked with a dialect coach to master Chris Kyle's Texas twang, and Bradley Cooper even stayed in character even when he wasn't even shooting the movie. He'd be off, and they'd shoot down and they shut down the set for the day, and he'd go back home, and his poor girlfriend had to deal with him being in Chris Kyle character the whole time. He's just walking around with his talking like this, and talking about slinging rifles and joining the teams and Navy SEAL. I'm on SEAL Team 6, and I mean just his poor girlfriend had to drive him nuts, but she's I'm sure she managed there. But so he's kind of like De Niro or Gary Oldman. He's doing the ultimate method acting, just staying in character. And it's kind of funny. One of the side stories is that Chris Kyle, he talked to Bradley Cooper just once there, and before Cooper played the role. And Chris Kyle, he basically said that he thought Bradley Cooper was too pretty to play him. And so Chris Kyle said, what I'd like to do is, hey Bradley, I'd like to tie you up to the back of my pickup truck and just kind of drag you and your face like down the road for a little bit there, because then maybe that would make you look equivalent to the way I look, so that you would be more believable in my eyes as my character. Because right now, you're too pretty. And Bradley Cooper, he's like, hey, I heard that. I heard Chris Kyle said, I was like, hey, I was flattered. And I was like, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. But Chris Kyle, he's in true, Navy SEAL special operator fashion. A lot of those guys, they're just like, they don't pull any punches. They're gonna right in your face. And I'm sure Bradley Cooper was good enough sport to take that, but I just thought that was funny there. And so, of course, as many of you know here, this is the one spoiler that I'll put out there. So Chris Kyle, he as most of everyone knows that's listening to this, Chris Kyle was tragically killed, and he was killed before this movie came out. The movie was in prep. I think they were even shooting it, or maybe this is before shooting it when he was killed. He was killed on February 2nd, 2013, and basically, ironically enough, he was killed by a veteran, a Marine veteran that he just wanted to take out to have a good time, to go out to the shooting range, go grab a bite to eat, to help him out. A veteran helping another veteran, right? And brothers helping brothers, and tragically, the veteran he was trying to help out, Eddie Ray Routh, he killed him. He just outright killed him, and he didn't just kill Chris Kyle. He killed Chris Kyle took his buddy Chad Littlefield out there to this range. I think this range is like a little bit southwest of Dallas.
To that shocking killing of legendary Navy SEAL Chris Kyle. The most lethal sniper in U.S. history was gunned down at a Texas shooting range over the weekend. The man arrested a troubled former Marine whom Kyle was trying to help. ABC's Ryan Owens has more from Dallas. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning to you, George. We're told that young suspect idolized the sniper Chris Kyle. So many people did. He was an American hero who survived so much at war, only to be gunned down here at home.
I loved the job, the guys, the camaraderie.
Chris Kyle knew the toll combat takes as well as anyone. He served 4 tours in Iraq, won 7 medals for his bravery, and killed more of the enemy than any sniper in U.S. military history.
And, it's been widely reported, and I think Taya Kyle even said this too, that he I think they looked at Chris Kyle's and Chad Littlefield's phones, and even before they even got to the range where they were killed, Chris Kyle even texted Chad Littlefield while they were in the truck with this guy, and before they got to the shooting range, and Chris Kyle even texted his buddy Chad like, man, this guy is crazy, this guy's nuts, and Chad Littlefield texted him back right afterwards, said, yeah, man, watch my 6, meaning like watch my back, like, I don't know what's going down, but like, look after me, right? And then, not long afterwards, they got to the range, and as I understand it, like pretty much like right after they got out of the truck and they were, headed to where they were going to, fire off some rounds, the guy just took a handgun and just shot him, in the back and in the head, and it's just tragic, it's just, Chris Kyle survived all those tours serving our country, and then he comes home and he gets killed by somebody that was trying to help out there. So, but it's emotional. It's emotional. But so it's a great movie. The book's even better. The book goes into more detail, and Clint Eastwood. Man, I tell you, like. Clint Eastwood, he picks some great movies. He's got some stinkers, but most of the movies that he does, are just lights out, and I just like the pacing in this movie, the editing, he's got a couple of flashbacks in this movie, and he keeps the movie going. He keeps the pacing doesn't drag. It's it's not meandering or anything like that. It's some of his movies back in the 90s, did kind of drag on, but he's perfected his craft, and he's gotten pretty good about that. And, one of the things about Clint Eastwood in his directing that actors always say is like he just does one take. You've got like one take to get your lines down as an actor, to, you got to study your script ahead of time. And then Clint Eastwood, he's all about efficiency. He's like, none of these 9-month shoots, right? You know, he's just like, okay, you got one take for this scene, and we're moving on. And even like Matt Damon was telling a story about when Clint Eastwood was directing him in the movie Invictus, and Matt Damon made the mistake of asking Clint Eastwood, like, hey, can I do that one more time? And Clint Eastwood said something to the effect of like, why the hell do you want to make it harder for the rest of the crew on this set? And then Matt Damon was like, all right, hey, Clint, you're a legend. Say no more, man. All right, you're the boss, pal. You're the boss, man. Hey, one take is good enough. So yeah, so Clint Eastwood's all about that efficiency. But yeah, just check out American Sniper. You know, if you haven't seen it already, and even if you have seen it already, watch that again. I mean, I'm borderline embarrassed to say this, but I've seen this movie so many times. I mean, this is just, again, there's many movies like this in my book, but it's one of those movies where you're just flipping through channels and American Sniper comes on. I don't care if it's like 3/4 of the way through the movie. Guess what I'm doing? I am not getting anything done until the end of this movie. But so yeah, it's good. It's good. So, but and there's some other great actors in this movie here. There's a pretty good scene. I like the scene where Chris Kyle, he's in a auto repair shop getting his truck repaired. He's in there with his son, and a guy comes up and he recognizes Chris Kyle as a guy, as the guy that rescued him. And he comes up to Chris Kyle and says, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but you saved my life. You carried me out of this battle zone. I got shot, and you're the one who carried me out. You saved my life. And his kid's there, and he's thanking his kid for he's saying, hey son, your dad's a hero. And I thought it was a very, very touching scene. And the guy that and the actor that plays the guy that Chris Kyle saved in that movie, he's also in a really great series I think it's on Netflix called Mindhunter, and that's a great series. Check them out on there. But so yeah, so great other great actors in this movie. So yeah, with that, it's American Sniper here, and you know what? I'm gonna take a little close to goodbye sip of this Texas Red here because it's so delicious. And I am not getting. I know I make it sound like I'm endorsing this, but I'm not getting paid by this brewery or any other brewery that I do this with. Oh yeah. So yeah, and then with these beers that I'm mentioning to you, like it's like you may be saying like, hey, it's great that you can get that beer down there in Texas. But, here, I'm like, I'm in Coronado, California, or, I'm in Brainerd, Minnesota. I can't get that beer up here. Well, you can go to gopuff.com or craftshack.com and get these beers. And again, I'm not getting any endorsements from these websites either. So I just don't want to deprive you guys of the beer that I'm drinking here. So next episode, I'll have another beer that I'm drinking, and obviously another movie that I will be reviewing. And so I really hope that you guys join me for the next episode. Feel free on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts to scroll on down at the very bottom and give me a 5-star rating if you're so inclined. If you like what you heard here, and you're like, oh man, like I got to reward Van for enlightening me and enhancing my life with this American Sniper review. Feel free to give me a 5-star rating, and also if you want to, go all Stephen King and and even write a review, go that extra mile. Feel free. So yeah, you can do that on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. If you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, or you can just pop me a line or drop me a line at Instagram or Twitter. Anyway, hey, with that, thanks a lot for joining me, cowpokes, and this is Texas Van signing off at the ranch. All right, you guys have a great one. Yeehaw!
Hey guys, don't leave the video quite yet. Okay, I've got the po-po. They're coming after me, and I don't have much time to tell you, but you need to like and subscribe this video right here, down below. It's right down there. It's just waiting. It's waiting for you down there, okay? And make sure you watch these videos over here too. You'd be doing me a big favor. Put me in handcuffs pretty soon. All right. Thanks for watching.